Hello, Mom, and happy birthday from Aura Muktip, Oradi, and I in Thailand, and indeed from friends and family around the world. Put together a few photographs for you and some other things, contributions from friends and family. You remember 20 years or so ago, Catherine wisely suggested I convert the old Super 8 films from the 60s and 70s to a digital CD, which we did. And so this is a follow-up. So credit to Catherine. Actually, this is going to be part one of two or three because I'm going to put these on YouTube for posterity. And I have a limit of 10 minutes per video. So this will be two or three. Part of this is to celebrate your birthday, and part of it is to advise your friends in Virginia about some past things that you've been too humble to mention, or they didn't know about, or possibly have been forgotten. So, because people in Virginia know you as a raconteur, a gourmet, a volunteer, a progressive activist, a bookworm, and a doting grandmother, and other things. Of course, great traveling companion. I shouldn't fail to mention that. But I'm going to tell them, I'm going to remind you of some things from your past which they didn't know, because before, and I'm telling this to Virginian people mostly, before Mom moved to Charlottesville, she was a scholar, a bookseller, teacher, working mother of four young children, civil rights activist, and political activist. Knocked on doors for Gene McCarthy. Worked as an environmental activist, and lobbied against nuclear proliferation, as I recall. Anyway, so I guess we'll start with some, we'll do it chronologically to some extent. They're mixed up a little bit, but here's a photo from 1953, it says. I guess this was your brother's wedding. And I got old photos from Patrick Hassett and Mary Kowalski and Julie Hassett and Michael Hassett. Thanks very much. I'm sorry, I haven't got the photo credits mixed up, so I don't know who got this one, but they all contributed. Beautiful family there, Irish Catholic Americans. There's your brothers from the war years. And of course, we've got members of the current generation who defended peace for us. Let's skip that one pretty quickly. Don't know who those babies are. I suspect the oldest cousins. I guess Julie and Michael, maybe. Not sure. Patrick. Don't know whether this was in upstate New York or the Cape, or even what year. Okay. So now we move ahead, jump forward quite a bit. Well, here's something Virginians might not know. When we were very young, I was 3 or 4 years old. My mother moved us from the suburbs of Cincinnati to first an experimental integrated housing project in the inner city, and later to an integrated neighborhood called North Avondale. And Mom, this was contributed by Annette and Mary Cartel. And I remember some great times from that neighborhood. Mom would be very active outside looking after kids. And believe it or not, in those pre-digital days, reading stories to the neighborhood kids on our front porch. There's Catherine and I with the Joneses. And I guess that's Tony Linder in the middle. I remember we'd hold these tremendous parties full of progressive academics and local activists and people from around Cincinnati. Once I remember mom greeted a gentleman at the door, and the party was already going full blast. And she holds her arms and says, "Our conquering hero." And I guess this fellow must have appeared on a local, social affairs TV show. And she said, "Next stop, firing line." And he bellowed back, "Yes, bring on Bill Buckley." So fantastic parties. One of the things I remember about that house is, Mom was such a bookworm that every room we might play in had books in it, and I would memorize the spines with the authors and titles. Once I was at one of these boisterous parties, and I heard two adults talking about War and Peace, which I knew because I used to use that book to hold down tents and forts with blankets and sheets that we'd make and play in, us four kids. So I said, yes, War and Peace, Leo Tolstoy, excellent book. And I was probably 8 years old, so they were pretty astonished. Looked at me quizzically and said, "Have you read that?" And I said, "Oh, sure, lots of times." Meaning I'd read exactly that, Leo Tolstoy, War and Peace. And they said, "Well, how did you like it?" And I said, well, it has a certain gravity, a denseness that I like. Because it's a thick book that would really hold down a tent. And I knew from my mother being a peace activist what the best part was. I said my favorite part was the peace part. And they looked at Mary Kay for some kind of confirmation about the veracity of this claim. And she said, the kid likes to read. What can you say? So to this day, I can sound a lot more well-read than I am. There's the Cartel's front porch. They were Jewish emigres from Hungary, I guess, and lovely family. Later, Mom became a teacher at a private grade in high school that we all went to. And here are some pictures from the yearbooks, which I actually still in touch with one of her old students. She kindly contacted a couple of her classmates she's still in touch with, and they gathered these photos together for me, and actually sent some written and video tributes, which I'll share in the next segment, I think. Actually, I recall what I learned from these photos. If you can see Mom here on the bottom, apparently smiling is important, but also gesturing. Apparently, hand position seems to be critical. I didn't know that was part of teacher training, but here it is a couple of times. And later you'll see a couple of tributes from our students. Here is this, by coincidence, this is me getting weighed by my science teacher. One day in 5th or 6th grade, she weighed all the students and to teach us the concept of average and mean. And it turns out I was in the middle weight and height. I was the least different, the most normal of all the kids, the most average. And it was the proudest day of my life. I've sought to be completely average in every aspect ever since. Here we go. Here's a tribute, Mom, from one of your former students who remembers you from 9th grade. This would have been over 50 years ago now. Marie Gordon at the time. She's now, as you'll see here, married and living in Richmond, Virginia, and would love to reconnect. She says, "Thank you so much for all your hard work in English class in the 9th grade." And you'll see a video tribute from another student later. I still use, I'm copying in my classroom, I realized, and have taught my students that gestures and hand positions are critical. And so there they are.